So you may have seen the claim that the United Nations significantly revised down its Gaza death toll, an allegation now refuted by the UN itself. However, what could be passed off as a mistake on behalf of the corporate media appears instead to be the result of a much more sinister campaign of disinformation that serves Israeli state propaganda. Pro-Israeli commentators and government officials have consistently disputed the Palestinian civilian death toll of the Gaza Health Ministry, which is used by leading NGOs and the United Nations. For some time, they got away with simply claiming, without evidence, that these were Hamas propaganda figures until a viral exchange between Israeli government spokesperson Avi Hyman and Piers Morgan inflicted a blow on this narrative on May 7.
And it avoids civilian casualties in the best possible way.
How do you know, Mr. Hyman?
Even if you were to take, please, if you're allowed...
Sorry, with respect, you come on here as the official Israeli government spokesman, and you don't want to be asked how many you've killed because you don't know, and yet you want us to draw comparisons to other conflicts in a positive way for Israel.
3 days after this interview on May 10, MJ Koch from the notorious billionaire Koch family and daughter of Julia Koch would publish an article for the New York Sun, in which she selectively quoted the United Nations using a Gaza death toll infographic from the UN's OCHA website to construct an argument that sought to undermine the validity of the UN's recorded death toll. The infographic cited was from May 8, which stated that the total death toll was 34,844. However, it then presented a precise breakdown of the 24,686 killed who were fully identified as of April 30, which included 4,959 women and 7,797 children. In her article, Koch refused to mention that both these statistics come from the Gaza Health Ministry, a fact which would have undermined her entire argument. In addition to falsely arguing that the 10,000 people noted as missing were subtracted from the total death toll in order to produce the 24,686 statistic, but, as it is clearly stated in the infographic, are recorded in addition to the 34,844 killed. 3 hours later, the Times of Israel then released an article in which they cited the same infographic, but used a second from May 6 to bolster their argument, claiming that, quote, UN infographics show a 17% drop in total women-children Gaza war deaths within 2 days. The piece does not link back to Koch's article, and while acknowledging that all the data does come from the Gaza Health Ministry, refused to make the distinction between the total and identified death tolls. Then, on May 13, Fox News published their viral story entitled, UN Revises Gaza Death Toll, Almost 50% Less Women and Children Killed Than Previously Reported, citing the exact same infographics from May 6 and May 8. The first infographic from May 6 presented the death toll as 34,735, including 9,500 women and 14,500 children. The Fox story completely ignored the total death toll from May 8 and focused blindly on the lower 24,686 identified death toll figure. Interestingly, the Fox News article was written by none other than Ruth Marks Eglash, a British-Israeli journalist who had accompanied Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, quote, several times on high-level trips to Washington and Africa. Eglash also moved to the US in 2020 from West Jerusalem to assist Israel's UN ambassador Gilad Erdan with English-speaking media outreach, even writing his op-eds, speeches, and social media posts for him. Although the Fox News article could have been easily debunked by anyone who simply chose to actually read the two infographics, it was quickly reposted by the New York Post with an even more outrageous title, reading, UN admits Gaza death toll wrong, with almost 50% fewer women, children killed than previously reported. Spreading like wildfire across social media, other mainstream media outlets began adding to the campaign of disinformation. For example, the Canadian state-funded CBC published an article entitled Why the UN Changed Its Death Tolls of Palestinian Women and Children Killed in Gaza, striking a tone that suggested the story was already confirmed and that they were simply commenting on the alleged backlash against the United Nations. The UN then responded to questions on the issue and clarified their published data.
What I can tell you is this. The overall number of fatalities that's been tallied by the Ministry of Health in Gaza, which is our counterpart on dealing with the death tolls, that number remains unchanged, and it's at more than 35,000 people since October 7th. What's changed is the Ministry of Health in Gaza has updated the breakdown of fatalities, for whom full details have been documented.
Then, for the first time in around 8 months of conflict, and on the same day that the UN statistics are being called into question, the Israeli government decided to publish a statistic for how many civilians they claim have been killed in Gaza. The Israeli spokesperson, who announced that Israel had finally put this issue to bed, was, you guessed it, none other than Avi Hyman, who was previously embarrassed by Piers Morgan the week prior. It's quite the coincidence that this easily debunkable disinformation campaign erupted just before Israel released its own civilian death toll. This raises serious questions about the integrity of the media and the motives behind such narratives.